Welcome to Top Rated Gym, the podcast that helps ambitious gym owners build profitable and sustainable fitness businesses. I'm your host, Andres Svijovic, and with every episode, we deliver actionable insights, expert advice, and success stories to help you grow your membership, streamline your operations, and achieve financial stability, even if you struggle with marketing challenges, operational overwhelm, or financial limitations in the past. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Jeff Sanders, the Chief Growth Officer and Partner at Energy Fitness. Jeff has over 20 years of experience in the fitness industry and has been instrumental in growing Energy Fitness into a leading gym brand. In addition to his role, Jeff also served on the board of directors for the Health and Fitness Association, where he works to drive positive change across the industry, not just one brand. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to diving into the expertise of marketing, sales, and growing successful gym business.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be a part and just excited to share anything that I've learned that can help other people. I think that's the best way for us to become better operators and better businessmen and women, is really learning from those who have made the mistakes and or have found the things that work right. We shouldn't be selfish with our knowledge. We should be giving so that we can all be successful. Ultimately, we're all here to help change lives and get people into a healthier version of themselves. So excited to be here, honored that you asked me, and ready to share anything that I can, and hopefully it helps some people out.
Well said, my friend. So you have unique perspective. A lot of people I talk and I bring to this podcast and the community have one side of the experience. They have their own location, their own multi-locations, or their brand. Either they are employee, the executive, or CEO, founder. You have something special. You have first running the business, but you also participate in a data, in a research, in association. So you have a multiple angles. You can compare your business with the industry, but you can also see what's happening on the industry level. So I would love today for us to dive into this marketing roles and sales role. And let me start by asking, it's all about data. What data analytics techniques have you found most effective to identify the best marketing channels or ad sources for the gym membership acquisition?
That's a great question. And I think you're right. It is a unique perspective for me to be able to see an operator's perspective and working with my partners and being in this industry, and then also being on the association side. And actually being in the association side has really shown me the importance of data. And I think as operators, sometimes we don't really realize what the role data should play and what it can play in helping us to be able to grow the business. And I think it ends up being a word that people say and people get excited about data. They're like, oh yeah, I need to get data. I need to get this. It's exciting. But when you don't really understand and comprehend how deep you have to go into data to really start making decisions that are based off of data and not biases. And I'm one of the worst. I look at an ad on my phone from a competitor or from anybody really, and I go, man, I love that ad. And my gut is I want to send it in and say, I want to copy this ad. Let's get it up and running because I like it. But what we don't realize is I liked it because it hit a certain aspect of me, but I'm not my only consumer, and I'm not necessarily my avatar for the business that I'm in. And so we have to really rely on data and really understand how when we start using the data to make decisions, that it helps us grow at an exponential rate, because it takes the throwing the dart at a dartboard off the board. You're guessing half the time, or you're going off what you think is best versus what your consumers and the people paying you what they think is best. So yes, I've got several things I've learned the hard way. The data plays such an important role in knowing how much to spend in your advertising budget. What is it worth? And I think oftentimes we spend less than we need to. So I think that's one of the first tools I would say is you have to understand what's your revenue per member, what the average lifetime value of a member is, the length your average member stays versus what you make off that member. Everyone's different and every model's different. Figure out what that number is, then turn around and find out how much did you spend to acquire a member. You have to be honest with yourself on data. Don't try to skew the numbers. And listen, it happens with every operator. We want to have really great numbers and everything, but when it comes to the data,
don't manipulate data to look.
Don't do it. Let it be honest and truthful, because it's going to help you see when you put your advertising budget. What did you pay off a commission? Did you give away anything? You list those different expenses on there. and everything that you spent, and you take that divided everybody that signed up, and you find out it cost me $185 to acquire every member, whatever that number is. But when you find out what the lifetime value is, and you can say my lifetime value is $3,000 per member, when you look at it in that perspective and realize I only paid $185 and I made $3,000 off of that member, I could actually pay up to $400. So maybe I could spend more money to get different people in. The tools like that are what's really important that people have to really dig in and look at.
That's right. And I want to go back to what you said first. Everybody is doing this. Gut feeling. Oh, I like it. Must be good. We all look at a competitor and then trying to give our agency or ourselves to replicate it. Don't do it. Resist. Look at the data. Who knows? Maybe they're just shutting that ad out. Maybe they don't like it. You're copying something, they're getting rid of it.
Absolutely.
I remember I saw my company being listed on Upwork, somebody saying, hey, I'm paying developers to replicate Referrizer. That was like 7 years ago. And I'm thinking like, buddy, don't pay it. I'm going to give you that code because I'm designing something totally new. Like you're copying something that you don't know if it's working, and we are redesigning, improving it. So it's very hard to do it. It has to be stopped.
It has to be. And let me say this briefly real quick too. And it was something that hit me hard. I was working with an ad agency, and Orange Theory, for instance, a phenomenal brand. JJ is the COO. He serves on the board with us at HFA as well. But we were looking at Orange Theory ads everywhere, and we were comparing that in our brand. And we had an agency say, listen, just because you see a bunch of ads listed, now this has nothing to do whether they worked with Orange Theory or not. I didn't call JJ and tell me, hey, did this work or not? They said they could be spending a lot more money than you to make sure that word's getting out there. And you have no idea what number of people are actually clicking on it and moving forward in that. So just because you see something doesn't mean that something out there from a main brand, what you're seeing, and their messaging is working. You have no idea what the back end is doing. That's what really opened my eyes up. And I'll tell you, the most important tool I have in my life right now as a business partner here is one of my other partners, Mike Tucci. He's our CEO. He and we tag team and work on the data analytics and marketing stuff together. And it's necessary to have a person that their brain looks and thinks differently than your brain when you're comparing data. It's what removes your biases. We can sit in a room and look at it completely different viewpoints of it, which keeps both of us on an honest path to be able to find, okay, what is the data saying in the middle? Because data is only as good as your interpretation of it. And so when you start getting data in, you have to set yourself up to make sure that you're interpreting it in a way that is meaningful to your company. And I would encourage everyone listening, get together a team, 2 to 3 people, don't get too many, but 2 to 3 people everyone can be respectful and be willing to disagree in a healthy way so that you can remove your biases out of it and actually get raw data that works. Because the way I look at it isn't always going to be the way that what the data is saying because of my own, skewed vision of it. And so having that 1 to 2 people that you trust it's one of the most important tools in my life right now to make sure the data is actually being applied.
And you said something, people with a different point of view. You almost want to look for somebody who disagree with you.
Absolutely.
Because if you trust data and you trust yourself, you might make wrong decision because not looking at every angle.
Absolutely.
And somebody can ask questions like, what happens here? How are you looking at the proper data? Are you looking on a profitability or revenue or a lifetime value? Something is not always, I'm good in data. I love it. But I made so many mistakes. And I bring my CTO and he asked, hey, have you included this kind of data? I was like, oh my God, that's so important.
It's having that different perspective. It keeps the data is always honest, but it keeps your interpretation of the data honest. And you're right. And we've all made mistakes, but having a team helps reduce the mistakes, and you have a higher probability of making decisions that are good decisions based off data versus you might hit a home run and you may make the worst decision ever if you're by yourself and you're just looking at the data in a certain specific way. So that's the number one tool.
One example. My client calculated cost to acquire client based on reverse engineering. I see these members. Let me see how much they're contributing. Let me see when they came in, how much money I spent in those months. But they excluded all the members that canceled. They excluded all the people who came in once. They excluded like literally half of the funnel, what happens in between. And when you look for just one angle of data, you don't get accurate data. You're giving yourself a perfect scenario that does not get replicated.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's what you want to avoid, because that doesn't help you make a good decision. That doesn't make you look at the data and understand where do you want to move from here. Some of the tools I'm going to share today that we've implemented in the last, even in the last 6 to 8 months, some of the newer tools. I have a tool that I had built out for me just based off of a crazy an idea I had after one of these conversations with Mike, where we were trying, what's the problem we're trying to identify here? And that's where our conversations go back. When there's a disagreement, it's not that he's a bad person and I'm angry at him because you don't like what I think. It's there's a disagreement. You think one way, I think another way. What's the problem we're trying to solve? Let's get on the same page there first. Then let's identify, can our data solve that problem? Can it answer to that? Or if it doesn't, what additional data do we need? And I think it's so important to have that mindset in there to really be able to dig in. And it's going to make you create some new data research and new data that you may have never even thought of getting, that all by having someone else in there talking with you that's giving you feedback and ideas. And I don't know, I'm looking at it from this perspective. Oh, I never would have thought about it from that perspective. We don't have data that helps with that. How do we get it? It's extremely important.
I love it. I wish more people are like that, data driven. Let's dive deep. You get access to a lot of things. Bring us something that you believe it's most important to track and how you approach data.
Yeah. I think most important thing to track right now, and when it comes to revenue growth for a company, is you tracking the effectiveness of your ad spend. I think some things that really are hard, the fitness industry, let me say this. I think we're young as an industry. If you compare us to restaurants, if you compare us to all these others, we're relatively younger as an industry. And so there's some things where we want to hire an ad agency, the inside of us, and we want to say, all right, they're going to handle the ad spend. How much do I need to give you? And then we rely on them to tell us, how is it working? What's going on? What do you see happening? Oh, you need more money, less money. We need to change different source. What happens is we get in this mindset of we're going to let them tell us. And I think for me, in what we've established here at Energy specifically, is the healthy pushback in our conversations has led, we have to know what is the return and what's the effective spend on what we're doing. So my first thing that I really, really encourage operators to do, and start simple, open up a Google Sheet, go in there on a Google Sheet, list out every source as one column: Google, Meta, TikTok, Yelp, whatever your sources are. And then on a row, you're going to put what month it is. And you track, if you track these simple metrics, how much have you spent month to date? How many total leads have come in? Out of the total leads that have submitted, how many of those have walked through your front doors? Not appointments booked, not how many appointments have showed up, and then how many people have signed up. And if you track the percentage of each of those, so out of 500 leads, I had 200 appointments show up and we signed up 150, whatever it is. You have to know what that percentage is, and then put a simple formula in the box and say, out of all the people that have signed up, divide that by how much you spent by the people who signed up. And you're going to understand, now I'm spending this much to get every new member in. Start simple, start with the Google Sheet, but do that for every source, track it every month. And here's what's going to be interesting. You're going to start looking at it. You're not depending on an ad agency at that point. You're looking at what matters to an operator. I spent this much out of my money. I had this many people walk through my doors, which were opportunities for me to close, and my team closed this many. There's only a couple of factors that impact that. Whether you had a lot of leads that were not quality, you had people coming in that were a low quality and they didn't sign up, or you had quality leads, your team doesn't have a good sales closing ratio and there needs to be some training on that, or it's a mixture of the two. But that simple Google Sheet alone helps you month by month start allocating. So you'll start going, man, Google's really doing well for me. I'm going to take away from Meta. I'm going to put more into Google, because you're tracking them side by side on everything you're looking at. And I think that's a very starting tool. It's just one tool for you to really sit down, and it gives you the ability, when you're speaking to the ad agency at that point, they start going through maybe vanity metrics and, well, look, we're getting a ton of impressions and all that. You can easily push back and just say, listen, I'm tracking this. This is what I spent. This is the direct impact in my business on that. And for the last 6 months, I've seen this source perform very well. This source has performed very poorly. And then use their expertise. What can we do on the poorly source to make that better. Let's test something 60 days. Let's test it and see if it gets better. But at least you're getting to identify what works better for you, not necessarily relying on the agency to be able to tell you. That's one tool that I think every operator should start building right away. It's simple, it's easy, and it gives you a really good look at what you're seeing come in.
Guys, let me visualize this for you. It's a spreadsheet. You have it now on computer. Super simple. How much you're spending, what lead source they're coming in, put a months so you can compare the trends. This is not a picture. It's not a one-time event. It's a trending data, right? You got to see the history of it. And then what's happening? It's like walking through the journey. You capture the lead, then they show up, they sign up, and then on every one of these put percentages, because numbers are irrelevant unless you see the conversion percentages. Percentages are more important. Numbers are too, but they're used for calculations. And then you got to compare. You can compare. If you do a pivot table later on, just put a source, put the timeline on the months and see the trends coming up. Based on the percentages, you can make a miracle. I'm thinking, Jeff, we can touch some of your examples into show notes so people can see some dummy data to see how this works and just start plugging your data. If you don't have that, you are in the plane with a captain flying through the sky with the closed eyes. How safe?
Absolutely. It's not safe at all. Exactly. And that's exactly the feeling. Looking, that's, again, this was birthed out of a meeting as we were trying to struggle and wrestle through. We're spending so much on ad agencies and ad spend. How do we know if we should spend more or less? And this was the first step. And it's exactly what you said. I'll give you 2 live examples. I'll make them quick for us on how that sheet impacted our business in real life data. We began to advertise on TikTok. Because everyone was like, leads are coming in TikTok. They're extremely cheap. It was the new meta. Okay, our business model, we weren't sure. Are we good for TikTok? Or are we not good for I don't know. Guess what? We already had the sheet live. So we just started tracking it. And we could tell you within 90 days, we very easily could see it was costing us double and triple and quadruple the amount of people that would actually come in and sign up versus what we were getting on Google or what we're getting on Meta. And we immediately saved, think of that from an operator's perspective. How much money did we save by not letting that run for a year or two just because someone's like, hey, you have to give it a good shot. You got to let the algorithms. Listen, agencies are phenomenal. They're amazing at what they do, but they're not operators. And so when it comes to how we spend money and how our budget works, that's where we have to be the expertise and what is it that's we should invest more money in. The second example I'll give you is we had the idea inside of our marketing group, maybe we should do a boosted post for Instagram because we can get a lot more people to see it. We spend a lot less and we can drive them directly to our website and we can target people looking for classes, say as an example. Guess what? We ran it for a few months and we tracked it separately from our Facebook and Meta lead data, getting leads in. And I'll get to a secondary tool that helped us make this decision in a second. But we were able to quickly identify and see we spent a lot of money on it. And the results on directly people walking into our doors and signing up were extremely minimal. And within 60 to 90 days, we were able to very quickly say, okay, we tried it. Now, guess what? We can stop that and we can review and see, do we want to try it again, change, tweaking something or not? But at least we didn't bleed that money out for months over months and then go, oh my God, we got to save money. Where do we cut? We had data to help us to know what the right answer was.
Wow. And you don't need even to compare yourself with other businesses. You just compare yourself with yourself.
That's it.
Let me compare different money spent. By the way, purpose here is multiple testings. You cannot run one. You cannot just run TikTok. You have to run TikTok, Facebook, Meta, split the budget, split the campaigns, run multiple, so you have something to compare. You cannot compare 3 months of TikTok and then I'm going to compare 3 months of Facebook because you might have some trends, some seasonal data.
Absolutely. Seasonal plays a big factor into it. So you also have to be careful when you're looking at month over month versus year over year data tends to be a little more helpful because of seasonality versus month over month. You also have to be able to track ad spend, and that's why that's an important column. It's easy for us to get hung up on, man, we got double our leads last month than we did the month before. What did we do different? First of all, what were our leads last month versus last year? Again, that's something Mike's amazing at trying to ask that question. Then we can truly see, did we have a bump or not a bump? And then we can look at, now what's our ad spend? Now, so I will say a second tool, and I'll bleed into this for a second that you can do. And anyone, you can Google this. I can share ours if someone wants to see it, but you can use Google Sheets. And again, I'm trying to keep this simple. You don't have to invest in any of these tools for the operators. Should be something you can do as a business. You can create a timeline in Google Sheets where you can go in and plug in data like Google ad spend. I bumped up to 11,000, and here is the start date, here is the end date. And if you go on the second tab, it builds an actual timeline where you can see like a bar chart of what you've done, what changes you've made, and when. So when you're looking at your first sheet and you're looking at, I've spent this much, I've got this many leads that came in, this many converted, and you want to go, what did I do different last year to make us get more this year? Now you refer to your second tool, which is a timeline that all you have to do is input data once it's built on what you did and what's the start date and the end date. And you can see what changes. Oh, you know what? We boosted Meta last year, or we cut Meta in half last year. So even though we doubled it, we actually didn't double it with what we're spending this year versus last year. Again, it's the combination of tools that really gives you a healthy outlook on what your business is doing.
Whoa, hold on. Let me try to translate this. First tool is tracking of the outcome. You have input, money coming in, output, conversion, and membership. And then you have second tool that's almost like history of activity. What happens when? And without it, you don't know the route. How did you get there? Because you might have such a great results that happens later, because results are not instant, guys. In order for you to see how much lifetime revenue of that lead is, you got to look data backwards. Because I know Facebook and Google can generate leads, but sometimes impulse buying versus intentionally searching for your business brings different lifetime value. So you might need sometimes 6 months to a year to look back on data and says, oh my God, where is this member came from? Ah, that came from Google because they were searching for it. And a Google ad was this one because that's when I ran it. So that timeline is pretty much giving you some kind of sense of what was working then, historical picture. Am I right on that one?
That's exactly right. Because here's the reality. Listen, we know operators, you have a million things you're doing all the time, right? And again, this goes back to the most important tool, having a team and having people that you can disagree with in a healthy way. Because then what happens, this tool was birthed out of one of those conversations, and we were going back and it's like, I was thinking it was attributing to one thing, someone else was thinking it was attributing to someone else. And then it was like, what if it was this? And what did we do? How can we solve the problem? We have to start finding a way to track all of our changes when we make it. And this was the idea that was pitched out there. When we make it, how do we track it so we can use that? Because none of us remember, what did we do a year ago to be able to see what really happened? That spurred me to do a very simple search. And again, today it's very easy with ChatGPT, all the tools everyone has out there. How do I make a bar chart timeline in Google Sheets to track events? That's all I did. And it within 30 minutes max, I had it built out. I went all the way back to 2022 with the data I had on my sheet on what my ad spend was per source, what the results were. I'm tracking what ad agency strategic moves we made. So when we changed ad agency, if we changed the CRM, if we changed ad spend, all those are different color coded. And now, again, to your point, when we look at an anomaly and we go, wow, this thing really jumped up. What happened last year? We can reference that historical data very easily without having to try to remember it. And then everyone remembers things differently. Again, if we can have tools that pull our personal bias out of the conversation, it sets us up for a better success.
Wow. Whoa. And what I'm thinking now, if I'm implementing that and I'm analyzing data, what's more important for you guys to have this done for some time, or you don't want to judge the results on the first month? Oh my God, this is work. I don't see the outcome. You got to keep doing it. The longer you do it, the more valuable it becomes.
Absolutely.
Especially if you can compare this month, November, with the last month, November, and see the trending, if there's a seasonality or not. And also, it's important to compete with yourself. Like all these conversion to visits, to membership, retention stuff, you want to see if you are making a progress compared to your own data. You don't keep, I mean, you care what's happening in the industry, but it's so important to keep improving your own. Constant, never-ending improvement. Test different things, drop what doesn't work, and keep what does, and iterate.
Absolutely. I would say other industry data comes into play when you're trying to clarify an unanswered point in your own data. For instance, if we had a drop in our Google interaction, Google ad interaction, and Google ad leads that came in, and the cost per lead jumps up and everything lowers, and we can't find anything we've done differently, then it spurs on, now let's look at what the industry's seeing. So then I can ask, this is where the ad agencies are the experts, and you have to lean in their data. Then I ask the ad agency, and I've done this multiple times, could you look and see what's the overall search volume for the health and fitness industry across the US right now? And then can you look in this in the state of New York, for instance? Then they can go, actually, yeah, it looks like the search volume is down 30% from what it was last year. It's down 30% from the year before. Now that has nothing to do with you, but it gives you the data and the insight into the anomaly you can't figure out based on your own data. And it tells you, hey, there's nothing we're doing wrong. We're in a spot now for what reason or another. We don't know which one it is. The people are searching for fitness less. And that's when that data becomes important.
And the more I think about it, the better it becomes, because you want to collect literally a decade of data. This is your blueprint. This is your data, because there's election coming up. Elections pull so much money into different things, right? There's seasonality that's not only yearly or monthly, it's also every 4 years. There's different things happening, and you got to be aware of that. Look internally, keeps improving it, but also get a sense for the industry, what's going on out there.
Absolutely. You have to. Again, data is brutally honest. And it's whether you like it and it's great or it hits you hard, the data is going to be honest if you're allowing it to be. You can skew the data all we want, but if you have, again, a team of people willing to question with the ultimate goal of working together to come to what do we need, and then you let the data be honest, and like you said, you have a decade of data. All of a sudden, now that we're tracking this data accurately, to your point, we can go back and go, man, the 3 weeks leading up to the election over here, we had a massive dip in everything across the board, but it hadn't happened 3 years for the next 4 until the fourth year from now. Then we can start making some asterisks and some understandings and some as a company and create literally a plan of how to move forward in the midst of every situation. But you can't do that if we're not really looking at the data.
Okay, so I believe everybody who is data friendly mind, analytical mind, saying, yeah, this is my language, I love it. However, for those who are saying, oh my God, I didn't start a gym business, so I can look at the data. For you guys, we'll have some templates here.
Yes.
Show notes, click. It's very simple table, very simple charts that shows you these things. One of the events that live charts that I'm following up is cryptocurrency. If you go to Coinbase or Coin Market Cap, they have charts, but they also have little points of data. So they have results, but they also have events. What happened in that event? And is there a relevance between events and what's going on in the industry? You have to have the same thing. And if you are not doing it, now would be a good time to start.
And I would say if, again, yes, you went in to open a gym because you're passionate about changing lives and you are all in making sure your culture is great, you're making sure the training sessions are phenomenal, you're making sure the facility looks great, that could be your passion. And if it's not something you can personally jump into what you're doing right now, yes, we're going to have a couple of things for you. I would strongly urge you, look at budgeting to bring someone in that has an analytical mind, because that's going to be a very important part of your business to be able to track. Because listen, the tools that I'm going to give you, those are tools that came about because we were trying to solve problems and we didn't know how. And I just in my own head thought, oh, this would help. Is this possible? And then I go figure it out and search it. That's what ends up coming up with our tools. So you are going to be presented with business differences in your businesses, different things that are really challenging, that you're going to need someone that you can have and be like, man, have a person go, you know what? That's an interesting question. Is there a way to track that? Let me do some research and see if I can find something. You've got to have someone on your team that has that mindset to really be able to help. Otherwise, you're going to get some great tools, but then there may be something specific that you're wrestling with in your company that I don't know. And I'll be available to help anybody that you need, but I'm not going to be able to be there day to day. So we'll have tools for you, but I strongly urge everyone in here, if you don't have someone that is passionate about data and analytics, make sure you try to start budgeting. What would it look like to bring someone in to help you with that?
Yeah. And I got to reference one of the things. See, I recently read a book called Extreme Revenue Growth. And it's by Victor Chang. And it talks about the companies who get stuck in a certain level. You go and then you plateau. And first thing, what he does when he takes on the coaching client in a world of technology, let's understand your business. Let's put a data. Let's understand every channel, how you operate, literally what you just explained now. It's the first step, because there is a most likely problem that you're not seeing. Second thing I found is a lot of people also get stuck on one acquisition channel. I found one thing, it's working my numbers, I'm looking at the revenue, it seems like it's okay. And then everything they else try, it's more expensive, For example, in the world of technology, they use email to jumpstart, and no company can exceed $1 million because email can just generate such a cheap leads, and it's great. The moment you go into digital advertising, it's more expensive. Instead of $500, now it's costing me $1,000. But they are not looking at the end. This email lead will last 6 months. This Google lead will last 6 years. So you gotta see the whole picture. More expensive upfront doesn't mean more expensive long term.
Absolutely.
Without lifetime value, you have no clear picture. You absolutely.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said lifetime value, because I was gonna say it goes back to the first thing we shared. If any operator listening right now, if someone were to walk up to you and say, "Hey, give me $300 cash right now," and with 100% guarantee based on scientific data, there's no arguing it. I promise you, in 3 years, you're going to get $3,000 back off of that. How many $300 sets of $300 would that operator give someone? So if you translate that mindset into your lifetime value and your cost of acquisition, it's the same concept. And again, this was talked about with Mike in our meetings as we were looking at it. This was the conclusion we came to. We can go to anybody and ask that question. If you come to me, I'm going to give you $300. I'm probably going to give you $900. I'm going to give you as much as I have if I'm guaranteed to get a return. So the importance of getting your lifetime value and the data, to your point, you may need to spend more money in different sources because you have room to spend more money because you're guaranteed to get that money back based on the data you're seeing. And I think that's the part that people don't think of. 10,000 a month may sound like a lot, but if you were spending 30,000 a month and you were able to grow your membership significantly more and faster, and every bit of that was coming back to you over a 3-year period time in more than what you would have at 10,000, would you not spend the extra? That's the mindset that the operators. It's hard because we're trying to survive. We're trying to pay bills. We're trying to look at what's in, but that's what helps with the data part. The data gives you comfort in going. And guess what? Then you try new sources, you up your ad spend. And if you're recording your data, you're going to see, okay, hold on a second. I'm not getting a return here. I'm cutting that off immediately. And we're going to move into a different direction.
So that's the last part, because I'm thinking now, somebody's thinking, Andre, it's easy to say, or Jeff, cool for you. I don't have infinite budget. I spend my budget. I can do more than 2,000 a month. But think about it. What's the cost of not doing it? If you know for a fact 3,000 is going to come back for 300, just because you don't have upfront 300, that doesn't mean you shouldn't figure out a way. Because even if you put a cost of money, let's say line of credits, loans, and so on, and calculate that over the period of 2-3 years, I'm going to be paying 10% for this loan. That's 300 times 10% over 2 years. That's another $60-$70. So increase it to 370, getting 3,000 still worth it.
Absolutely.
Because you are looking at the long-term picture, and push money now up front and think about growing because it's going to come back.
Something I say a lot is you have to really get into playing chess, not checkers. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the game of checkers, and I'm like, I got to jump this right now, or I'm going to do really good and I'm going to make a double jump and I'm going to feel like I really came out ahead. And in chess, you're having to think so many moves in advance. And I think data allows us to become better chess players in business. That's a saying that I constantly remind myself. Let's play chess, not checkers. Let's make sure we're thinking strategically. We're thinking long term. And I think that when you start moving your mindset to that, it forces you, man, this could be a scary notion. I'm going to spend this much more money. The data helps you feel more secure in it, and knowing that you're going to be tracking the effectiveness as it goes, so you can make a change anytime you want. It's not like you're making a change because you're guessing or not guessing. Now you're actually able to be able to see it. We did the same thing with our website. We did a website change. And I think this is, again, an undervalued area that people don't really rely on a lot of data. You say the words GA4, and you think, you open it up, and this is me, someone who loves data, loves marketing. I would open up GA4 all the time and go, oh my God, all right, wait, I got to go to what acquisition traffic over. Wait, I got to change
Google Analytics for those who don't know.
Oh yeah, Google Analytics. Yeah. So, and I had to change. Then we look at something like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't know what that means. What do you think it means? Listen, what you do is, again, this is real life. This is what we struggle with operators. You know what I did? I searched them like, is there a way to find a dashboard that's a live updating dashboard that I can look at with the information and data I want, not what Google Analytics wants me to see? And I stumbled into Looker Studio. And for those of you who don't know, it's a Google based tool Again, we don't pay anything else for this. It's part of what we have access to. It's extremely customizable. Now, to the point of it's worth investing to find a contractor to help you set it up. And this is what we did. I went to one of the sources where I like to find contractors that are very affordable for operators. They do a great job. So we went there, we found someone, and we started with one like just the websites. We just want to look at our website data. And then guess what? In this meeting, we had pushback and we're like, this is what happened. This is what I think happened. Well, no, I think someone went here. And we go, guess what? It caused us to sit back and I go, is there a way to track all buttons on the website to see who clicked them and what source they came from? Because that's what we were working through in our meeting. And I'll make a copy of it. We'll share it so people can see. Right now, if we have a Looker Studio, I can open up right now and I can put any date range and it's organized just like my website with the same pages I have. Every button on my website is set in this Looker Studio. I can see how many people clicked it. And underneath, I can see what source they came from. Google cost per click, Google organic, Bing, Meta. Now it takes, again, the guesswork out of it. And we're able to actually be able to see this is the highest clicked button on our whole website. Or, hey, let's add prices. Does it work? I don't know. How many clicks are going in there? Where are people coming from? Now we can start tracking information. So it's finding tools that can really help data easily translatable to everyone.
And I'll tell you one thing for this Looker guys. You see a lot of businesses, fitness businesses, have this sign-up form, lead capture system, offer, irresistible, membership creating process, some kind of booking system. But do yourself a favor and count how many clicks do you need to make, how many keystroke types do you need to do before your information is booked, scheduled, or lead submitted. Just do that exercise. Absolutely. Did you know that one input field in your form reduced the conversion 7%? So if you think adding birthday and your goal and your age and your sex and everything there will help you conversion, you're fooling yourself.
Absolutely. No.
We tested forms with a single one field, phone number. Boom, nothing else. Conversion double overnight.
Absolutely. And what you've got to do is figure out what data is important to your business, right? But I 100% agree that make it as short as possible and have different options. Like we're about to launch because of these conversations and data. Sign up for our newsletter. It's going to be a pop-up and you're asking for an email. What's the lowest form of ask ever? Why? Because right now our director of branding and marketing does a phenomenal job with our newsletters. We get a 58% open rate. We have a high engagement rate. Everyone's up. So why not? We're using the data. Let's make it easy for someone to capture an email. If they want to do a trial or they wanted to come get a free session with a coach, those options are still there. And they're going to put their name, they're going to put their phone number, email. And then the one required thing that we require, because it's important to track, is source. How did you hear about us? And we don't use other. We put in there, you have to tell us, was it Google? Was it Meta? Was it a friend? Was it a member? Whatever it is, they have to choose a source and then hit submit. Now, to your point, for us, it reduces probably our conversions because we're requiring that. However, operators, you have to decide what is the value of your data. That's so valuable to us. It's worth, we might have a smaller conversion, but if we got a conversion without it, I have no idea where they came from and I have no idea where to put my money at.
And guys, this is something along the way. I like the story with airline companies. If you do any study on airline companies, the value in an airline company is not in transporting people. I don't know if you know that. The value of the airline, American Airlines or any other, is in the points you collect on a credit card while you sign up in the plane. Because you might go once, they'll give you credit card. You might never go back to that airline, but you'll use that credit card for next 10 years. Absolutely. And make them more money than anything they will have after they spend on gas and food and accommodation and all that flight. They'll make almost no money. But if they get you on a credit card, they get their money back. So
I love it. I didn't know
data.
That. I love it.
It's funny data. You check public company records. So whole valuation of how valuable company is based on how many points and how many subscribers to a credit card they have. So they're not transportation, they're a freaking financial company in the air. It's a bank.
Well, it makes sense because they want to be able to communicate. They want to get people what are alternative ways for them to increase their revenue. And by the way, if someone gets a credit card, chances are they're going to fly with them and not a competitor, and they get market share out of it. You said that. Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense.
Guys, if you don't collect the data, you're falling behind because guess what? Your competitor does. And it's not too much to send an email. Like, how often should I send? That's a topic for another podcast. You should send it. If they don't like it, they can opt out. But you have a moral responsibility to educate. And of course, good content, quality content, educational content about fitness, about accountability, about nutrition, about everything that's really good for them. You got to do it. Now, we talked about don't start looking at data unless you know the question you're looking answer to. You got to find somebody who you disagree with.
And listen, a healthy disagreement is very important to growth. If you don't have someone challenging you, and if you're not challenging someone, to go back to the very beginning, you're going to make decisions and you're going to read it a certain way. And that's what's going to come into your brain. You're going to think, I've got everything I need. I made a good decision. And when it doesn't pan out, you're going to be sitting there wondering why. And if you have someone that's really challenging you and helping to make sure that you're wrestling through it and then making a decision, chances are you're limiting that, what that could be. You're taking that and limiting that and allowing yourself to be set up for more successful opportunities and successful decisions.
Jeff, quick question. If I'm listening now to this podcast and I am a gym owner or executive in the brand, I'm thinking like, holy smoke, how long is it going to take me to do this? So what would you say that somebody should put times on the side? Is this quarterly project, weekly project, daily project to set up your tools to get on track when it comes to data? What's your recommendation?
I would say at the very least, it depends on how quick you want this up and running. At the bare minimum, take 1 day a week and dedicate maybe 3 hours, 1 day a week. Maybe it's 2 hours, what your attention span is, and start really sitting down. But make sure that's focused on data only and building what you need. First, come up with the challenges your business is having and say, this is the challenge. I don't have enough new members. I'm not making enough money off my members, whatever it is. Then ask the question, what is it I'm trying to solve here? And then sit down and go, is there a way I can find data that gives me more information on the question? So you're going to go through that at the bare minimum, 1 day a week, a few hours that day, but let it all be on that. Now, if you're really going, hey, in the next 60, 90 days, I want this to be up and running, I would dedicate 2 days a week. You can't pull off everything else in your business to do this, but dedicate 2 days a week and dedicate 2 half days or 2 full days if you want. And say, I'm just going to go in and get this done. I want everything, every absolute tool I can built and ready. But part of the challenge is you have to be realistic. You're not going to know the tools you need to build until you're in a room with 1 or 2 more people and you're wrestling with what tools to build. So I wouldn't say don't start off just sitting down for half a day on Tuesday and working through it. Step 1, if you don't have a team, find who it is in your organization that you can pull in and say, listen, I know you could say, I know I'm the CEO or the owner of the company, and I know you're this, but in these meetings, I want to have some pushback, and I want you to know it's okay to disagree with what I'm saying because we got to come to some resolution and answers. Make it very clear, and then you have to foster that environment. If you don't foster that environment, then it's not going to do any good. Set up that first, then set up half a day a week and get started there.
Don't get yes people who's going to always nod in.
And it's hard.
I'll tell you one thing. If you want to run this anonymously, there's a good tool called, I just blank on the tool. I'll remember it by the end. It's the tool that we use to get everybody contributing with ideas and everybody can vote on ideas and then we discuss the ideas. I'll remember it. If not, guys, I'll put it in the show notes. But when you can put anonymously everybody's contribution for those people who are shy, they'll think, oh, I'll get fired if I tell that you are wrong, you made wrong assumptions and so on.
Absolutely. And you know what? I would even pose, if you're going to do that, use that tool, I would pose how you word it matters. Instead of saying, what ideas do you have to get more new members in? I would say, what are the challenges you see right now that we're having with getting new members in? Now, typically, I'm a more let's drive a positive mindset and positivity in what our conversations are. But it is a very important difference when you're asking someone what challenges we have. And when you're trying to get data, you're trying to get data to help clarify your challenges, not help get data to create the creation of new ideas comes at the end of data. Now we have all the data. Then you would send out the anonymous, hey, we're finding that we could get 50% more people through our doors to sign up if we brought on 2 other sources to advertise in. What ideas do you have? Where should we be advertising right now, in your opinion? That's after you have the data. Before the data, you need to word it. Hey, what are some things you're struggling with right now in getting new members in? What are the biggest challenges you have? And let people anonymously respond. That's going to be your pushback for you to be like, oh, I thought it was we didn't have enough phone calls being made at the front desk as an operator. Whereas they're saying the leads we're getting in are crap. They're bad. They're horrible. We got a lot of them, but they're really bad. And they're just wanting a free trial and they don't care. That then drives what data you need to start compiling.
Yes, and it's going to make your job easier, not harder, because you get somebody else to contribute. You don't have to be brain and solution for all the questions.
Correct.
It's going to make your job easier. And then once this is done and implemented, what do you say? How long it takes monthly to maintain and look at the data?
No, listen, I'll tell you what we do. And I think this, again, depends on what you're looking at. Now, listen, we currently have 5 locations on Long Island, and there's 4 partners. Mike and I typically tackle this type of stuff together. What we've done is we set aside half of a Tuesday once a week. And we do that for data analytics. And we specifically, we want to look at first our website analytics, our top clicks analytics. Then we want to go in and look at our lead and our cost acquisition. And then we want to start trying, what do we need to find out, or what is our data showing that we need to make changes on? Now that's us, because we have a specific growth in mind that we're trying to achieve. And that's what we feel is necessary. At the bare minimum, I really think at least twice a week, because here's the deal, once a month isn't enough. Data, you're going to miss a trend. There's going to be, because if you think, I'll use January as a good example. Now that we have data and we're looking at this, and it started again this past January, the first week was dead. It was slow. And everyone thinks of, in the fitness industry, January 1st hit, everybody's rushing in to sign up. It's our busiest month. And I would challenge this. I need to go back. It'd be fun to talk to the Health and Fitness Association to see what the actual data is. But I went back to our data, and the first actual week and a half, almost first 2 full weeks, almost are never that busy. And you think about now logically from consumers, they're just got finished over. They may be on ski trips still. They may be out New Year's Eve. They're having no one on, or I won't say no one, very few people on January 3rd are going, oh, I'm ready to go sign up for the membership right now. But yet as operators and as consumers, that's the assumption. So if you're looking at once a month, you won't be able to see a trend of, hey, guess what? The first 2 weeks were flat, but the last 2 weeks were great. And so if you look at it at least every other week for a few hours, it helps you give a better mindset of what that monthly look is versus looking at it just every month and trying to see annually what the data is.
And Jeff, this is freaking super awesome. We have tools. You share some incredible tools with us. I just want to make sure that I didn't leave anything behind. You gave us a tool 1 for results, tool 2 for timeline, tool 3 for Looker Studio. Focus on lifetime value. Do not start unless you have somebody to interact with. Best person, opposite opinions. Figure out what challenges do you have so you can really see what problems do you want to solve, and then start asking questions. What are you trying to solve? And is there any data who can give you answers to, right? How can you answer those questions that you're putting on? And then once you're doing it, start creating and putting it every month. Stick to it. Cool thing is problems will change. Once you see the problem, you attack it, you change it. But make sure your data covers not just that problem, covers the whole pipeline, right? From the input, by source, and sometimes I even like to go not by one source. You want a source, you want a medium, you want a campaign, you want
absolutely
2 or 3 angles of the data, because you can be saying Facebook, but you can be using landing page versus leads ads versus a one-time offer. So look at the data, and then you will make such a better decisions. This is incredible. It's obviously showing your skills and knowledge and understanding and mastering this in this way. Where does somebody goes to learn things like this? What would you recommend? Either association or podcast or conference or book or a mentor to go to? Where do you go to learn things?
That's a great question. First and foremost, I would say if you're in this industry and you're in the fitness industry specifically, the Health and Fitness Association has so many resources that are undervalued and you don't even know about it. I pulled in, and we didn't even go through this. When I told you in the segment, we talked about you want to look at the industry data and know what's happening.
Please.
That's the part where you have to have someone that's giving you that data. And I wrote a couple of interesting things. Right now, there's a lot of positivity happening. This came out from a global report and a consumer report that we just published out. But right now, all fitness facility types are having higher membership levels year over year. Fitness only is up 4.9%. Multi-purpose is up 11.4%. Studios up or 3.2%. You're seeing things that are very important, and it gives you a gauge. And even for us, I'm looking at this, I was sharing some of this with my partners, even as I was reading through it and going, wow, look at this. Right now, out of studios, personal training whether it's personal training, one-on-one or group training, is one of the fastest growing segments out of a studio segmentation right now. The second fastest is yoga bar, right? And then actually HIIT is pretty low, which and this is us in our mindsets. We all thought it's got to be high and it's diversified right now. There's a lot of people doing it. But then when you look at the data, and again, you're like, wow, it's totally different. It's actually the personal training is on a growth path. Cycling and rowing is negative. It's one of the only ones that has gone backwards in growth. So there's a lot of tools that you can get from the Health and Fitness Association. Everyone should look into the membership there and the trade show. I would say going in there, you're going to have education. I'm actually doing a session in our next trade show next year. It's cracking the marketing code. And it's literally just decades of mistakes made by an operator, wins made by an operator, and things that we can learn from. I'm just going to share more in a more detail of what I spoke about here. But those things are invaluable. You have to do those things. You have to be able to get in and get a part of your industry, be a part of the association, support it, and get the tools from it. Podcast is the other thing I would say. So for me, in the last 6 months, really, I've gone on a binge. All I do is I listen to as many different podcasts as possible. I've dug in and started listening to yours, loving it, enjoying it, a lot of content, learning it. There's a lot of people that, and I would say, don't just stick to fitness when you're talking about advertising and marketing. Don't look at it and be like, every gym in the world is running this ad, so it must work. Go listen to podcasts that are marketing for all types of businesses. That's where I'm learning the importance of data, the cost of acquisition ratio. If you have a 3-to-1 ratio, you're doing good. If you have a 4-to-1, you're doing great. Guess what? I just learned this. If you have a 5-to-1, it means you're not spending enough marketing dollars. Now, how crazy is that? You're sitting there looking, I've got a 5-to-1 ratio. That means I'm doing phenomenal. My cost is low. We talk about lifetime value, cost of acquisition. I'm spending $100. I'm getting $4,000, whatever it is, so I'm doing good, right? No, you're underspending because it's too good of a ratio. You start and you get.
I rely on referrals only. I don't need that. You're retaining your growth. You're slowing down.
Absolutely. You get that from listening to people outside of just the industry, our industry, and learning what they're doing. So those are the top things I would say. Make sure you look at Health and Fitness Association, get in there with a member, come to the trade show. You're going to learn a lot. And by the way, there's a lot that goes on in being a part of that association where you get podcasts, you get invited to learning events, you're learning and seeing what advocacy there is. So podcast is phenomenal. That's it. And then from that, you have to build a network and you have to be a part of the industry to build a network. So I'll pick up the phone if I have a question and I'll call someone and ask them. So that's, again, a part of being an association. You start building these relationships and you have people you can pick up the phone and call. I'll get on the phone with anybody. You need 15 minutes of my time, I'll be glad to do that for anybody and share anything I can to help out.
Wow, man. Listen, this jam of data is what really makes you think, holy smoke, am I behind? Like just understanding industry and where the trending data is, personal training versus HIIT versus cycling, getting into that, think like, oh, I never thought I'm going to run personal training ad. I thought this is like just for a small number of people. Now we might think differently. But who knows when you're listening to this episode? Maybe a year from now. Year from now, association will have new numbers. Go and get yourself tuned in for the active current numbers. You have to become a better member of community in order to become. That's why we have this podcast, so we can bring you now relevant data. And Jeff is nothing less than a goal in this community to share this data. He could say, I'm going to use this for my own business. But no, he cares about the community, about everybody in it. Says, hey, guys, our joy is not to compete, is to compete who can deliver more health to this community, who can fight diseases, who can make well-being better, who can bring the energy into the world of individuals. And that's what we are all doing. And you have also responsibility to learn, but to share. Wow. And for the people who are listening to us now, they're already looking for you on a LinkedIn, looking at energy fitness, thinking, oh my God, Jeff, where were you all my years? If I knew what I know now, I would be way better off. And I want to ask you, how can people find more information about you, about association, about events, how somebody can join this world, how somebody can join your world in energy fitness, either if they're employee or potential partner, maybe investor. Tell us about how people can connect with what you're doing in your world.
Absolutely. Listen, first of all, for the association, it's simple. It's healthandfitness.org. Go there, look it up. You can see all of our board members on there, not just myself, but you can really see the tools. You can learn about the show that we do every year. the impact we're making from an advocacy standpoint, the wins, and you learn a lot about that. So please use that as a tool. Please look into that. If you have questions about that or questions for me, you can reach me by my email. It's jsanders@energyfitness.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Jeff Sanders with Energy. I'm there as well. But shoot me an email. I don't mind giving my cell phone out. We'll put it in the notes. If you want to go download the notes and look at them there, you can text me. I'll jump on a call with you, whatever. I'm available. My passion is I look at the penetration rates we have with our gyms versus the population in the world. And I tell everyone everywhere I go, this is not we compete against each other. We should be looking at it as we compete against the people that aren't motivated, that aren't inspired to get in the gym. That's our competition. It's the people, it's Netflix, it's all the things that drive people to want to be at home and stay at home and relax. Not that those are bad things by themselves, but that's the competition. We should be partnering to get as many people off the couch and out of their home and into our facilities, regardless. Did you know 27.5% of members that go to studios have multiple studio memberships? 27.5%. So we're looking at all the brands of studio memberships. Yeah. And we're trying to fight for thinking we're going to be the end all be all when we should be working together and be like, wait, what is it you solve? What is it I solve? What is it you solve? How can we get people to come in and work together with us? So that's my big passion. That's my goal. So if I can help you in your area, get more people to come in your doors. It's not about being the best and the highest member in your community. It's about working to make an impact in your community to change lives. That's really what we should be doing. So that's my passion. I will be glad to get on a phone call, text, email, whatever. And listen, I'll be the first to say, by the way, I know very little compared to probably a lot of people in the industry. I don't have a problem saying that. What I learn is when we have a problem, I got to come up with a solution for the problem. That's how my brain's wired and what I think I'm good at. So really the only things I'm sharing here, because I ran into problems and had to come up with a solution, I'll be glad to connect you with people that I know also that can help. I think if you just want to learn, become a student, no matter what level you are in your business, owner, operator, VP, C-level, front desk, you're working the front desk, listen to this podcast, become a student and be teachable. And I'll be glad to share anything I've learned and to help you in your journey.
Wow. And I got to say one thing. You're incredible, Jeff. And you are a true level 5 leader. Level 3 leaders are people who just want to get their own success. And level 4 are people who want to help others to get success. But level 5 leaders are people who create level 4 leaders. You are creating people who are impacting industry, not only their gym. And on behalf of the community, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your words of wisdom for today, for selflessly sharing the knowledge and industry data and everything. And guys, more of this is in the world of association. Stop what you're doing now, pull over, go on the website, check it out, register, sign up, become a member. And I'm not calling you here to spend money. I'm calling you to educate, to make more of what you already signed up for. And that's to be a contributor to the community. This is what we created this podcast. And for people like Jeff, I want to thank you, brother, for incredible contribution today. You're something special, man.
I really appreciate the kind words. And anytime I can pop on and help out, I'd be glad to spend time with you and just talk to me as much as we can get information out there and help people be successful. I really love to see that. I love to see people be getting better and better versions of themselves. So I'm just glad to be here. Thanks for the kind words. I really appreciate it.
And once again, topratedgym.com, guys. I'll put in show notes everything that we discussed today. And don't forget to subscribe, share this with your friends. Stay strong, stay motivated. Keep pushing your gym to the top. Until next time, this is Andre signing off. Bye. If you are a gym owner looking to become a top-rated gym in your area, visit topratedgym.com and grab our free 30-day reputation boost. That's topratedgym.com. I'll add it to the show notes for you. Don't forget to share this with your friends. Stay strong, stay motivated, and keep pushing your gym to the top. Until next time, this is Andre signing off.